Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me tonight. My name is Michelle Lorenz, and I am so excited to be here talking to you about our company, LifeVantage, and how we use this new science of nutrigenomics to help you slow the hands of time, to turn back the clock so you can age less and live more. Now, before we get started, let me give you a little bit of background on myself. My background's in the law. I've been managing litigation for crane and rigging companies for about the past 20 years and absolutely loved what I did. But I've also been passionate about health and wellness, especially for kids in the foster care system, kids of trauma, and for animals. And that's what initially piqued my interest in this company. But before I got involved, I did a couple months of research, 2 months of due diligence. I put my lawyer's hat on and I looked for the evidence. And so I looked at a couple different things. I started out by looking at the peer-reviewed clinical studies here. And what I quickly learned is that here at LifeVantage, science matters. It's what distinguishes us from all other supplement companies in the market. And then I went and I listened to testimonial evidence from witnesses, just like we would in a courtroom. I wanted to hear what people not involved with the company said. And some of those testimonials brought me to tears because of the life-changing impact our products have had on some of the customers that have been using them over the last decade. Then I also listened to expert witnesses. So just like we would in a courtroom, the testimonies and of scientists, physicians, veterinarians, what they were saying about this product mattered. And I was surprised to hear that many of those healthcare professionals have thousands of patients using these products here. That was huge validation, huge evidence. And the fourth thing I did is I went and looked at the financial markets. And what I found surprised me when I learned that LifeVantage was publicly traded on the NASDAQ and that millionaires and billionaires have purchased millions upon tens of millions of dollars of the stock of this company. So all of that mountain of evidence together convinced me that this was the best financial opportunity I'd ever had in my professional career, but most importantly, that this is the best opportunity I'd ever had to impact the lives of the people and the animals that I love. And that's why I'm so passionate about this company and why I'm excited to be here tonight talking to you. So let's get started on what you came to hear about. Let's talk about the paradigm between aging and disease. So we know that aging and disease both result from damage and destruction to our cells that cause them to be less functional in time. Which one comes first, we're going to talk about tonight. But we know that cellular damage is caused by what's called hijacking. So our bodies over the last thousands of years, they developed differently than what we are exposed to today. So our bodies have been hijacked by smoking and drugs and alcohol, by genetically modified foods, by the pesticides and insecticides on our food, by glyphosates, the toxins in our cosmetics and our cleaning supplies, the heavy metals in our food and our water supplies, the parasites in plastic, cleaning products. All of these different things have hijacked our bodies and caused cellular damage. And what we've done here at LifeVantage is we have helped you find a way to optimize your genetic potential, to maximize your performance, optimize your health span, live a better quality of life, and ultimately extend your lifespan, supporting your quantity of life. And we do that using two different sciences, the field of epigenetics and of nutrigenomics. So epigenetics distinguishes us here at LifeVantage from just about any other supplement company. What is epigenetics? That's studying how the environment impacts the way our genes express themselves. And we know that our genes, they're just blueprints. Only about 20% of them are hardwired. The rest, we can change their expression. And the way we do that is we turn on the good genes to do more. That's called upregulating. When we turn down the light switch or the dimmer switch so the bad genes do less, that's called downregulating. Now, I knew we were on to something when just a week ago, the 2019 Nobel Prize in Medicine, it was awarded to 3 scientists that discovered a protein that attaches to our DNA and impacts the way a gene expresses itself. So here at LifeVantage, that's the same science we've been using of epigenetics. We do it naturally with nutrition. We have 3 different flagship products that activate proteins in our body that attach to DNA and impact the way 7 different longevity genes and hundreds of survival genes, the way they express themselves. That was a big, huge check mark in the evidence column for me. Now, what is nutrigenomics? We mentioned it. Nutra stands for nutrition and genomics for genes. So nutrigenomics is just the scientific study of how nutrients from our food how they impact our genes deep down at the cellular level. And that's what we specialize in here at LifeVantage, not a drug, but using natural food and food compounds to impact our cellular health. Now, as we look at this study, this came out a few years ago, and it talked about the relationship between disease and death. And what the authors realized is that by the time you hit 40, every 8 years or so after that, your risk of dying of a chronic disease, it doubles. And so this really created a paradigm shift in the scientific community. There's a doctor at Harvard. His name's Dr. David Sinclair. He's a geneticist that teaches at their med school. He's also one of the people that is voted one of the most 100 influential people in Time magazine. He just authored a book called Lifespan, Why We Age and Why We Don't Have to. He's got some brilliant podcasts where he talks about this process. And he says, listen, there's been a paradigm shift in the medical community. We no longer believe that disease causes aging. Instead, we believe that aging leaves us susceptible to disease. And so his theory is if we can address the hallmarks of aging, the causes of aging, we can slow down aging, slow down disease, and ultimately delay human death. And the best part, the absolutely best part about this is it's not just going to help give us more years to live, our quantity of life, but he believes it's going to improve our quality of life as well. He calls that health span. Now, what are some of these causes of aging or hallmarks of aging? You see them here. These were published in a peer-reviewed journal called Cell. So DNA changes, telomeres, epigenetic changes, and stem cells. We've heard of those. You're going to hear a lot tonight about protein maintenance and nutrient cessing, which goes down as we age, and then especially mitochondrial dysfunction and inflammation that occurs in our body, both because we don't have cell signaling that works as well as we age, but also because of these things called zombie cells. You see here, this leaf is starting to just decay and destroy itself. That's called cellular senescence. Those are going to be the things we talk about tonight and how they impact aging. So what Dr. Sinclair believes is that the only reason we age is that our body's natural defense system, it doesn't work the same at 60 as it did at 20. And so there are 3 different theories of aging that he believes can help boost our defense system. One of those is the free radical theory of aging, the mitochondrial theory of aging, and the SIRTUIN theory of aging. So here at LifeVantage, we developed 3 different products, which we call our tri-synergizers, that impact those 3 different theories of aging. So our Nrf2 or Nrf2 activator impacts the free radical theory of aging. That theory says that we get those toxins that have hijacked our bodies, the waste product from oxygen, and those create free radicals in our body. And we can't possibly eat enough vitamin C, enough blueberries, or enough broccoli to overcome that free radical exposure that creates oxidative stress that damages our cells. Unfortunately, our Nrf2 proteins in our bodies, they don't work as well as we age. So our Nrf2 activator helps boost the Nrf2 protein to attach to DNA and impact the body's expression of over 500 different survival genes. Our second product we launched is our NRF1 or NRF1 activator. This impacts the mitochondrial theory of aging. So mitochondria are the engines of our cells. When they don't work well, our bodies don't work well. And unfortunately, our mitochondria decay and get damaged as we age. NRF1, what does it do? It's a protein that attaches to your DNA to impact the expression of those genes that relate to mitochondrial function. And then our third product is an NAD activator. NAD impacts the SIRTUIN theory of aging, and this is really the specialty of that Harvard geneticist, Dr. Sinclair. So what we know our SIRTUINs are called our longevity genes, and they impact so many things related to health and disease. But unfortunately, as we age, those SIRTUIN genes don't work as well either. So our NAD activator turns on a protein that attaches to DNA so that we can impact the expression of those 7 SIRTUIN or longevity genes. Now, these are the different theories of aging and our 3 different tri-synergizers. They overlap and interact, and you're going to hear about the benefits of these on the right tonight, about how they impact oxidative stress and inflammation, detoxification, mitochondrial function, joint health, organ health, autophagy, power washing the junk out of our cells, and ultimately support healthy cells, healthy DNA. And we will talk about each one of those individually tonight. But before we get started on that, we wanted to give you a brief overview because the science, we recognize it can get a little confusing. So we want you to think about Nrf2, Nrf1, and NAD just like you would a fire in a fireplace. So when we eat food, it goes into our mitochondria and it produces energy. That energy, the waste product, is free radicals and oxidative stress, and we get toxins in our body. So what our NRF1 activator does is it impacts mitochondria. Now think about this like a fireplace. In a fire, if you want a big, healthy fire, what do? You add more logs to the fire and you add big, thick logs. You don't want to just have a fire with little kindling because it will stop burning. Same thing happens inside your cells. If you want healthy cells, you want big, thick, robust mitochondria, and you want more of them. That's what NRF1 does. It throws more logs on the fire and it makes those logs bigger, thicker, and healthier. Nrf2, also think about it in the context of a fireplace. So what happens after you burn a fire? You get soot at the bottom of a fireplace. And if you never clean the soot out of the fire, eventually your fire won't burn as well. The same thing happens inside your cells. Those free radicals and toxins and zombie cells, they build up inside your body. And if you don't clean them out of your cells don't work as well. That's what Nrf2 does, is it helps power wash the junk out of your cells. Now, how does NAD impact the fire? It's like the lighter fluid that makes the fire just explode with a big, thick, healthy, hot fire. It also, NAD helps the production of NRF1 and helps NRF2, making all three of them more effective. When you do that, you help extend your aging process and slow down the disease process. Think about the fireplace as we go through the rest of the presentation tonight. So we're going to start with NRF1 and the mitochondrial theory of aging. What are mitochondria? You see a picture of them here. They look like the little worms in this picture. One of them is a mitochondrion. Together, they are mitochondria. Now, mitochondria are the engines of our cells. They're what give us up to 95% of our body's energy. And we know that our quality of life depends on our quality of mitochondria. Now, these pictures you see in biology textbooks, they're a little bit misleading because there's not just 2 or 3 mitochondrion in each cell. Instead, in a bicep, for example, there's 200 or 300 mitochondria. In your quad, there could be 1,000. In your heart and your neurological system, 5,000 individual mitochondrion. That's why if you have damaged or dysfunctional mitochondria, they impact your performance because you don't have enough energy to your muscles. It impacts your heart. It impacts your neurological system. Healthy mitochondria are critical to not only our quality of life, but our quantity of life. Now, here at LifeVantage, our NRF1 activator impacts the mitochondria. Think of the fireplace. It's going to enhance the functioning of our existing mitochondria. We're going to both add more mitochondria. So we're going to throw more logs on the fire and we're going to throw bigger logs on the fire in the form of mitochondria. And that's going to impact and limit our body's mitochondrial dysfunction. Because of that, we're going to sleep better, get that restorative sleep where you get cellular repair. It's going to help our circadian rhythms, our DNA, and then it's going to support brain health and cardiovascular health. And ultimately, for those of you that are athletes, it's going to make a big difference in your cellular energy, or ATP. Now, how does it impact our DNA? Here you see some clinical studies talking about Nrf1 in protein and how that relates to telomeres. So what are telomeres? Over on the right, you see this picture, this X-shaped thing is a chromosome, and that's what carries our DNA, our codes, right? Our proteins. At the end of this DNA, these little green things are end caps called telomeres. And telomeres are the guardians of our DNA. They protect our DNA from damage. But as we age, you guessed it, our telomeres shorten. They don't work as well. What does NRF1 protein do? It helps boost the length of your chromosomes, helps extend those telomeres, just like the end caps on a shoestring, to protect your DNA. Now, we know if you're an athlete that mitochondria and NRF1 is so critical. How does it work? It boosts your cellular ATP. So ATP is adenosine triphosphate. That's where you get your energy. So when you have more energy, you can boost your VO2 max. What is that? That's how much oxygen you get to your muscles and to your heart. So if you're getting more oxygen in your muscles and heart, you're going to be able to train harder, longer, and more often. You're going to be able to speed your recovery, maximize your performance so that whatever you love to do, you're going to be able to get back in the gym, on the field, on the ice, on the slopes, back on the court, whatever it is your passion, you're going to be able to do that more quickly by boosting your mitochondria and boosting your ATP. We do that with NRF1 activation, but also with NAD activation. So this is our second activator that we're going to talk about tonight. We just launched this a couple weeks ago in the beginning of October, and this addresses the SIRTUIN theory of aging that Dr. Sinclair at Harvard specializes in. This is kind of a new emerging theory, but it's all the rage, both in the athletic community, but now in the healthcare world, it's starting to garner attention. So this diagram you see on the left is from a peer-reviewed journal called Journal of Cellular Science. And this was authored by one of the leading longevity scientists in the world, Lenny Guarente at MIT. So this diagram highlights that sirtuins, there are longevity genes. They help us live longer. And all plants, all animals, we all have sirtuins. Yeast has sirtuins. That's where they discovered it. But what we know is that mammals, dogs, cats, horses, and all the people you love, we all have the same 7 sirtuin genes, and they impact health. You see on the top here, cancer, cardiovascular health, metabolism, neurological health, inflammation. I want to emphasize as we go over this that our products here at LifeVantage, they don't treat, cure, prevent, or mitigate any disease. All they do is turn on your body's natural defense system so it can do what it's been doing for thousands of years, which is protecting your body. But I want to point out that these sirtuins, there's 3 of them that specialize in impacting mitochondrial health, just like we talked about with NRF1. And so these 3 sirtuins are called SIRT3, SIRT4, and SIRT5, or SIRT3, SIRT4, and SIRT5. These impact mitochondria, again, so important for athletes. Now, let's talk more about sirtuins. So you know they're called our longevity genes, but sadly, as we age, they don't work as well. By the time you hit retirement years, you've got about 2/3 less activity in your sirtuins. So scientists started figuring out how can we boost sirtuin activity. And what they learned is by studying people who had lived to be 100. And they started to notice that a lot of these people had gone through periods of famine where their caloric intake was restricted. And so scientists have discovered that by limiting your calorie intake to 500 to 800 calories a day, every day for the rest of your life, you can boost your sirtuin activity. Now, that's usually has to be medically supervised. And more importantly, that's not a really great way to live, right? You may extend your lifespan, but your quality of life, nobody wants to live on 500 calories a day. And so that's great that they discovered this, but it's not really applicable to a lot of people because very few people are going to do this every day for the rest of their life. But what they realized is this process of caloric restriction, what it does is it's called hormesis, HORMESIS. And what hormesis is it's your body's natural defense system being turned on in response to stressors. So long distance endurance exercise, that will boost your sirtuin activity. Caloric restriction, jumping in the Arctic, that will boost your sirtuin activity. But again, scientists wanted to find a better way to do it. And so what causes sirtuins to increase? And it's this enzyme in our body called NAD. So sirtuins need NAD to function, just like a Mercedes-Benz great car, but it needs fuel to function. NAD is just as important to sirtuins. So what is NAD? It stands for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. It is a derivative of vitamin B3 that goes through a lot of chemical gymnastics inside your body, and it ultimately results in NAD. Now, our body doesn't utilize vitamin B3 very well. It's not really bioavailable, and as we age, our NAD goes down as well. And so how does NAD work? It helps with your body's biochemical reactions. It helps break down the nutrients in the food you eat to turn it into ATP and boost your metabolism. And it also helps regulate other proteins in your body, those proteins that attach to DNA to upregulate or downregulate the expression of genes. We need NAD to help a lot of biological functions, but it also helps with NRF1 and NRF2 as well. And remember, sirtuins can't function without NAD. So here at LifeVantage, we launched an NAD activator just a few weeks ago at the beginning of October. The picture you see up in the top right is a picture of the SIRT3 gene. Now, what does our NAD activator do? It helps regulate those 7 SIRTUIN longevity genes. It helps support autophagy. What is autophagy? This is power washing the junk out of your cells, just like the soot out of the fireplace. It's going to help your body's natural inflammatory response, going to upregulate the good anti-inflammatory genes and downregulate the genes that cause pro-inflammatory enzymes. It's going to help support healthy cholesterol, heart, liver, and vascular function. For athletes, so important. It's going to help with joint health and muscle recovery. We have powerful testimonials about athletes that are training for marathons who don't have a buildup of lactic acid in DOMS after their workouts. It's going to help you with your ATP, again, because it boosts your mitochondrial function, and it's going to help support healthy DNA. You see a lot of these are related to those different hallmarks of aging that we talked about earlier that Dr. Sinclair of Harvard focused on. Now, here at LifeVantage, I mentioned evidence matters, science matters, so we put our NAD activator to the test. As we mentioned, caloric restriction will boost your SIRTUIN activity by 94%, but look at what happens with our NAD activator. In just 24 hours, our SIRTUIN activity was boosted by 100% by our NAD activator. Now, this is a really big deal because we also studied our competitor that uses a precursor to NAD, kind of a derivative of vitamin B3. And in 24 hours, that precursor only boosts your SIRTUIN activity by 2%. So 100% versus 2%, which would you rather have? But here's what's also important. That precursor at 30 days, at the end of 1 month, it boosts your SIRTUIN activity by 40%. So in 1 day, our product boosts it by 100%. In 30 days, they only boost it by 40%. That's why we are so excited about the impact this is having on people, helping them age less and live more. Some people are calling this caloric restriction in a bottle, right? Instead of eating 500 calories a day, take 2 pills in the morning and boost your SIRTUIN activity. Now, that's the NAD activator that addresses SIRTUINs. Our original flagship product that we launched is an Nrf2 activator, or Nrf2. This combats the free radical theory of aging. And so what is the free radical theory of aging, and how does that interact with oxidative stress? Oxidative stress is really simple. It's just an imbalance between the antioxidants in our body and the free radicals, those toxins that have hijacked our bodies for all of these years. And so this is an illustration of a free radical and an antioxidant molecule. A free radical is just a molecule that's missing an electron. If you remember back to biology class, when you don't have a stable number of electrons, a molecule will bounce around inside its cells. It's unstable and it's going to cause damage and destruction. That's what a free radical does in causing cellular damage. The way an antioxidant works is it has extra electrons and it gives one of those electrons to the free radical and it neutralizes it. Now, this is so important to do at the cellular level, because if you don't neutralize those free radicals here, they're going to cause damage to your tissue, your organs, your organ system, and ultimately your whole body. That is the free radical theory of aging, and that's what we want to combat here. Now, free radicals don't just come from toxins. Your body utilizes oxygen, and when you utilize oxygen or exposed to oxygen, you get oxidation. That's what you see on this apple. That is also producing oxidative stress in your body or in the fruit there. So there's no way you can avoid oxidative stress. So our alternative is to find a way to neutralize more free radicals. So think back to when you were a baby, or if you have children, their free radical exposure is low, thankfully, unless they've had in utero drug and alcohol exposure, right? That's because their moms are protecting them in utero. And fortunately, these genes in our body are called survival genes. There's over 500 of them, and they existed to help us survive before we had a pharmacy, before we had antibiotics or aspirin, before we had Band-Aids to stop infections. These survival genes needed to be able to react when our body sustained injuries and cellular damage. But as we age, we get exposed to more oxidative stress, and that causes more aging. And that's because why? We have more free radical exposure. But unfortunately, those survival genes, they don't work as well when we age. That's what we are doing here, is the inflammation results when those survival genes don't work and those free radicals, and that process is called inflammaging. Now, what we've done here at LifeVantage is we've given you a way to combat that with our Nrf2 activator combating the free radical theory of aging. So what it does is it helps regulate over 500 different survival genes. It helps the body repair and rejuvenate its own cells. It's going to increase your body's internal antioxidant production to minimize oxidative stress. This is so important. The antioxidants that our body makes, they're like superheroes. They're super antioxidants. They are way more powerful than any antioxidants that you can take in a supplement like vitamin C, and you couldn't possibly eat enough blueberries to match the amount of antioxidants and the powerful production of antioxidants that our body makes. In addition, it's going to induce detoxification, autophagy, getting the junk out of our cells. Nrf2 is going to help with anti-inflammatory, antifibrotic, or scarring, and our body's immune response. It's going to help lower oxidative stress by a 40% in 30 days. We have a clinical study that proves that. Again, the evidence mattered to me. And another clinical study from the US government that shows that Protandim's Nrf2 activator is the only natural supplement ever proven to extend median lifespan in male mice. Now, this science is one of the things that distinguishes us. And just last year, a scientific review in a peer-reviewed journal out of the University of Arizona Medical School, they studied Nrf2 activation, and they specifically mentioned Protandim. And they said, our product, our Nrf2 activator, has been vetted in scientific journals and clinically proven to activate nuclear Nrf2. That is the reason we have sold over 23 million bottles of our Nrf2 activator over the last 10 years. And it's the basis for all of those testimonials that I talked about, the evidence. Now, people say, Michelle, I eat healthy fruits and vegetables, brightly colored fruits and vegetables. I eat healthy fats like you see on the screen. I exercise. I take protein shakes. I maybe take vitamin C. Why do I need Protandim? Well, part of the reason is this study. This is our second clinical study, and it relates to what's called synergy. This study was funded by the American Diabetes Association and the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. That was huge evidence for me. And here's what this study found. They examined Protandim, and then they compared it to the different ingredients, curcumin, milk thistle, green tea, bacopa, and ashwagandha. They also compared it to a control, a Nrf2 activator called sulforaphane that comes from broccoli. And what they found in this study is that Protandim was 18 times more effective than any individual ingredient, or even than the combination of those ingredients, because the recipe matters. So that's called synergy in science. So just like recipe matters in a cake, if you think about a cake, you can have flour and eggs and sugar and baking soda and baking powder and vanilla, and how you combine those creates an amazing cake or something that nobody wants to eat. That's because the recipe matters. That's called synergy. The recipe mattered here, and it's why our Protandim Nrf2 activator was 1,800% more powerful than any individual one of those ingredients you can go buy in the vitamin aisle at your health food store. But this was the evidence that was really powerful to me. This is called an antioxidant hierarchy. So what you see on the bottom in the light blue are what's called exogenous, external antioxidants. These are the antioxidants in your food or the vitamin C supplements you take. They're good for you, but they aren't nearly as powerful as the antioxidants in the bright blue at the top. The ones at the top are called endogenous or internal. You can't take a supplement of SOD, catalase, or glutathione peroxidase. These are antioxidants that only your body can make. Only your body can make. And as you go up this antioxidant hierarchy, the higher you go, the more powerful the antioxidants. So here at LifeVantage, we wanted to figure out how could we get our bodies to make more of these antioxidants? And we did that with epigenetics. We found a protein that attaches to our DNA that turns on the genes that boost our body's production of these. That protein is called Nrf2, and it's what our Nrf2 activator does. It boosts your body's production of glutathione peroxidase by 300%, of catalase by 54%, and SOD by 30%. Now, glutathione is very, very important. It's called the master antioxidant. So this gets boosted by 300%. Glutathione helps detoxify our body. but it is also the master antioxidant because it makes all the other antioxidants more powerful, both the endogenous and exogenous ones. So really important to boost your glutathione. Lots and lots of studies talking about the importance of your body's glutathione levels. The other reason this antioxidant hierarchy is important is because inside of our cells every single day, we have 130 sextillion free radicals. Look at all those zeros. That's a massive number of damaging toxins that are causing havoc in our cells. And what we know is these antioxidants on the bottom in the light blue, they can only neutralize one free radical with one antioxidant molecule. The reason these endogenous antioxidants on the top are so much more important is one SOD molecule can neutralize up to 1 million free radicals. That's why we've heard the testimonies from so many people of how Nrf2 activation is changing their bodies. It's why we sold 23 million bottles of this Nrf2 activator. Now, the other thing that I want to mention is the scientific studies. So our very first study was back in 2006, and it was performed on humans. And what we did is we studied people from the age of 20 up to the age of 78. And you see them plotted here on the graph. We measured their oxidative stress levels before they took our Nrf2 activator. And that oxidative stress is evaluated by T-bars, which is lipid peroxidation. They took Nrf2 for 30 days, and then we took their oxidative stress levels again in their blood. And what you see is that every single person had a reduction in their oxidative stress. And obviously the 78-year-olds had a lot more oxidative stress, but they also had a lot more reduction in their oxidative stress. Now, what's really interesting, you see these people that are higher here. These are the people that were taking exogenous vitamin C. Interesting, right? Now, here's the study. And in 30 days, we reduced people's oxidative stress level by an average of 40% in just 30 days, by a 70% in 120 days. But the great thing is it impacted your biological age. So what is that? Chronological age is how old you are in years. Biological age is how old your cells are. And one of the measures of biological age is oxidative stress. At the end of this study, scientists weren't able to distinguish the blood of a 20-year-old from the oxidative stress in the blood of a 78-year-old. That's a big deal, and it's why it's helping impact our bodies to age less and live more. Now, think about this. If this is what happened in 30 days, what would happen in 30 months or 30 years if you continued to reduce your oxidative stress? Well, the US government wondered, and so they started a study of our product. For several years, they gave mice our Nrf2 activator, and they only gave them about half of the dose that we would have recommended. But what they found after several years of studying mice is that it reduced the median lifespan of male mice by 7%. The National Institute of Aging has been doing these studies since 1999 for the past 20 years, and it's the only all-natural product ever tested, the only all-natural supplement ever tested to reduce median lifespan. It's one of the reasons we are so proud of this company, because science really matters here. That's the kind of evidence I look to. And this is one of the other studies I read. This is a study by scientists up at Washington State. We had nothing to do with this. And they talk about how Nrf2 impacts our body. Nrf2 activation activates those survival genes. It helps with the things we've been talking about tonight: detoxification, antioxidants, mitochondrial function, anti-inflammatory, autophagy, power washing those cells. And it ultimately impacts oxidative stress, which is a form of hormesis that we mentioned, right? Now, there's a quote in the study that was really profound. I want you to let this sink in. The study's authors reviewed all of the Nrf2 research in the world to compile this review. And after looking at all of that research, they were overwhelmed, so much so that they believe Nrf2 may well become the most extraordinary therapeutic and preventative breakthrough in the history of medicine. Let that sink in. That's how powerful Nrf2 activation can be in your body. Now, this same study, they talked about the impact on detoxification, and the authors believe that may be the most important function of Nrf2 activation, because you can detoxify yourself from the cosmetics that you use, from the chemicals you've been exposed to. Maybe there's lead in your water supply or in the paint at the place where you lived or grew up. Maybe there's glyphosates in your grass or in the crops that you've been ingesting, or maybe it's just the fruit juices that you drink, because there was a study last year that tested 45 different fruit juices. All of them had heavy metals in them. In fact, Dr. Mark Hyman is an MD. He's a functional medicine practitioner at one of the most prestigious universities, Cleveland Clinic. Dr. Hyman has a podcast called Pharmacy, Pharmacy. Just last week, he was talking about 40% of our population has over 2 parts per million of lead in their blood. 40% of people. And any level of lead is now dangerous. So that's why detoxification with Nrf2 activation is so critically important for everybody, every animal, and every human you love. Now, this is a study, again, out of the University of U of A Medical School. And then this study talks about the impact of Nrf2 on aging. And what they found is that our Nrf2, this protein, it doesn't work as well as we age. And because it doesn't work as well, our oxidative stress goes up. And look at what they did. They talked about those 9 hallmarks of aging. This is their diagram, not ours. And in this study, just released in April of 2019, this is new emerging science, right? In this study, they say Nrf2 impacts all 9 hallmarks of aging and impacts all of these different diseases. Again, the evidence just keeps mounting. It's more and more overwhelming that Nrf2, NRF1, and NAD are so powerful to impact those hallmarks of aging. Now, here at LifeVantage, we talked about synergy earlier with our Nrf2 activator, but we also want to talk about synergy as it relates to all 3 of our products. So synergy is how things work together, where the combination of them produces a greater impact than just the sum of the parts. And what we know is we put our products to the test. So again, science matters here. So we tested our NRF1, NRF2, and NAD activators alone and in conjunction with each other. Now, we know they impact over 500 different genes, but we're going to give you an illustration of just a couple for each product. So, for example, our NRF1 activator, it impacts metabolism and mitochondria. So you need to see the impact on the NRF1 gene and on a gene called PGC1 alpha that impacts mitochondria. So when we tested NRF1 alone, it improved metabolism, the impact of that NRF1 gene by 65%. But when we had it together with the other 2 products, it boosted the activity of that NRF1 gene by 90%. When we tested it with the impact on the gene impacting mitochondria, one of the many genes impacting mitochondria, PGC1 alpha, the activity was increased by 71%. And when we used it with all 3, PGC1 alpha activity increased by 120%. That's just NRF1. Now check out what the impact is on NAD. So again, NAMPT gene and the NMMAT1 gene both impact NAD. We know NAD is so important for our SIRTUIN activity, right? So NAD, our activator alone, boosted NAD recycling by 12%, but 10 times more powerfully when we used all 3 together. It boosted the NMNAT1 gene by 12%, so much more powerful, almost 20 times more powerful when we used all 3 together. Now let's talk about our flagship product, because these results blew my mind. So NQ01, that is an antioxidant and detoxification gene. Lots of genes in our body do that. We've had clinical studies show that it boosts our antioxidant production. But this specific gene with Nrf2 alone boosted the gene's activity by 40%, and with all 3, almost doubled that at 78%. But now hold on to your hats, because there's a gene called HEMIOX1. HEMIOX is one of the most powerful genes impacting inflammation. We have so many testimonials from people, from the horse world, from the dog world, where people have seen a response on their inflammation in their bodies by using Nrf2 activation. It's been one of the most easily verified markers with all of these testimonials we have. And this is why, because NRF1 impacts the activity of that HEMIOX gene by 51%. But check this out. Nrf2 activity boosts HEMIOX by 848%. We didn't have enough room on this slide. That's why you see the up arrow. 848% boost in the HEMIOX gene activity when you're using Nrf2, NRF1, and NAD. This slide just kind of overviews the results for you and gives you an impact. 38% increase and 69% increase in those 2 genes about NRF1 activity, 967% more effective, and 1,792% more effective with using NAD in combination with Nrf1 and Nrf2, and then 83% and a whopping 1,563% more effective by using Nrf2 in combination with our other two products. That's the process of synergy, and it's why we are so excited about how we're helping people here at LifeVantage age less and live more. Now, those were our studies. So again, I looked to the evidence of people who weren't related with the company. This was a study that came out in 2015 in a journal related to experimental physiology, exercise, right? And this is important because it was before we launched our NRF1 activator and before we launched our NAD activator. The only thing we had on the market at the time of the study was Nrf2. But I found this study when I was doing those 2 months of research. So check this out. We know that hormesis happens with caloric restriction, exercise, and oxygen deprivation. How does it work? Calorie restriction and exercise, what do? They boost our body's NAD production and boost our ATP. Exercise, and that ultimately impacts SIRTUINs, those 7 SIRTUIN longevity genes. We also know that exercise boosts our body's oxidative stress. The more you push yourself, the more oxidative stress you have. So both oxidative stress and those SIRTUINs impact the gene we just talked about, the PGC1 alpha gene. I was blown away when I saw the clinical studies we had released. So PGC1 alpha is a gene that impacts mitochondria, and look what that does. It impacts 2 other genes, NRF1 and NRF2. So what you see here on the slide is NAD activation, SIRTUIN activation, NRF1, NRF2 activation, all the things we've been discussing tonight, and that helps boost your body's mitochondrial function. So critical amongst the hallmarks of aging, right? Now, the science here at LifeVantage, it matters. So I want to give you a brief overview of the kind of science we have. It's called peer-reviewed science. This is really important for a couple of reasons. So what is peer-reviewed science? First of all, a lot of supplement companies may tell you they did a study and they'll post something on their website. But if that study wasn't evaluated by other scientists in the scientific community, it's not valid. So what a peer-reviewed study is when a scientist does this research, they write a review article, and they publish that study, and they send that research study off to scientists on an editorial board of scientific journals. And that editorial board has physicians and PhDs and biochemists and geneticists and other expert witnesses. Those expert witnesses review the study or the review. They make sure it was fair, there was no bias. They make sure they agree with the conclusions that they're supported with in concordance with the hypothesis. They make sure that they believe it's scientifically valid. Most supplement companies, when they publish studies on their website, those are studies they did for sales, not for science. They're not peer-reviewed. Those studies are no better than an ad on the halftime of the Super Bowl. Our company has 26 peer-reviewed studies. We put our science to peer-reviewed tests, and other scientists have validated what we have come up with. That's one of the reasons that our peer-reviewed studies are different. The other reasons is some of those studies on supplement companies, they use what's called borrowed science, meaning they'll go find a research article about resveratrol or a research article about curcumin, and they'll say, our study, our products, they work the same way. Here at LifeVantage, we didn't just study the ingredients. We showed that our product, our Protandim trisynergizers, that they are studied in the product itself. Protandim is studied, not just the ingredients. And you saw with Synergy that our product outperformed those individual ingredients. Now, where do you go to find these? You can go to the US government's website, published by the National Library of Medicine, called pubmed.gov. This is where scientists, doctors, pharmacists, geneticists, it's where they go to see if the science is legitimate. You will find Protandim. If you go to pubmed.gov, you will find the brand name of our product on PubMed. If you're walking down the vitamin aisle of your store or you're looking for something on Amazon, Google the name of that product, and almost never will you find them on pubmed.gov. That's because PubMed has mostly pharmaceutical drugs. Pharmaceutical drugs are regulated by the FDA. Supplements are not. So most supplement companies, they don't spend the money to prove to you that their products work. Now, we can't tell you that our products treat, cure, prevent, or mitigate any diseases. We can tell you that they do what? They are proteins that turn on, attach to your DNA and turn on your body's expression of genes, and those genes turn on your body's defense system. That's what our products do here at LifeVantage. Now, you can find our 26 peer-reviewed clinical studies on PubMed. You're also going to find patents. We have 7 patents protecting Nrf2, other patents protecting NRF1 and NAD. Patents give us 20-year protection so nobody else can copy our products. That's what distinguishes us here at LifeVantage. Now, the other thing that distinguishes us is who studied our products. Again, other supplement companies, they may have their own scientists conducting the studies. Here at LifeVantage, we have those 26 peer-reviewed studies are conducted by some of the top universities around the world. So for example, Johns Hopkins conducted and oversaw that anti-aging study. Texas Tech and Duke are both studying neuromuscular cells and how Nrf2 activation impacts them. University of Montreal studied Nrf2 activation in the context of inflammation and arthritis. LSU studied Nrf2 activation and how it impacts the upregulation of P53, a tumor suppressing gene. Mayo Clinic also studied that. Down at Virginia Commonwealth on the right and Ohio State University, they studied cardiovascular health and our blood vessels. One of those studies, it was published by the American Heart Association in their journal called Circulation. That is evidence. That's the kind of expert witness that I wanted to see. This is the stuff that convinced me LifeVantage stands alone amongst supplement companies in having peer-reviewed journals and universities like this that have studied our products around the world. And one of these studies that was conducted over in the Netherlands, it actually outperformed a $50,000 a year pharmaceutical drug that was ultimately approved by the FDA for treating MS. Ask whoever invited you to get you copies of those studies so you can check them out. Now, we have other products besides our Tri-Synergizers. We have a Nrf2 activated energy drink that helps with support brain health. A lot of athletes love this before they work out. We have pre and probiotics. We have an omega that you can trace from the boat to the bottle to make sure it's fresh. You don't eat stale fish. You don't want to eat stale omegas. Omegas are so important for mitochondrial health and neurovascular and cardiovascular health as well. All of these things, they work healing your body, supporting your body's defense system from the inside out. We even have Nrf2 activation for horses and dogs, but we also developed Nrf2 activated products to help your body from the outside in. Nrf2 activated skincare that was developed based on those studies of skin cancer cells at LSU, and Nrf2 activated hair care. Check these out. These are important because our body, our skin and our scalp, they absorb up to 60% of a product's toxins in just 30 seconds. 60% in 30 seconds. So you can't wash this off quickly enough to avoid the toxins. You want to make sure your products and your hair care and your skin care that they are clean. Our products are, you can check them out on an app called Think Dirty. This Think Dirty app rates the products. You're going to be shocked when you check out the very expensive $30 a bottle shampoo that you use and all the toxins that that's putting into your scalp. That's why we believe not only are our products healthy from the outside in, but the inside out. Now, I also mentioned to you, when we try a lawsuit, we use expert witnesses. Doctors testify about the medical conditions. Engineers testify about what caused an accident to occur, how a crane collapsed. Expert witnesses matter because lay people, they may not understand the science. So when we cross-examine an expert witness, we ask them, have you done any studies? Have you tested your hypothesis? And then, did you get any peer-reviewed studies? Because we know that only 10% of research is ever published in peer-reviewed journals. So I wanted to see what expert witnesses said. And here's the first expert witness we can talk about, Dr. Brian Dixon. He has his PhD from Oregon State University, where they specialize in aging. The Linus Pauling Institute studies what? Oxidative stress and inflammation, and how nutrigenomics impacts our aging process. Dr. Dixon has 2 peer-reviewed clinical studies that you see here, several of them, but these are examples. This one studies glutathione. This one relates to Nrf2 activation and glutathione synthesis and how that interacts with alpha lipoic acid. Alpha lipoic acid is also in our NRF1 activator. This matters to me. The man leading our scientific research is a Nrf2 specialist, right? He specializes in nutrigenomics. These are some of the doctors that are distributors with us, but some of these are also on our scientific advisory board. We have thousands of physicians and healthcare professionals involved with this company, and that to me was more expert witness validation. But let me go over a few of these. All 3 of these people at the top left here are practicing cardiologists. She is one of the top-rated preventative cardiologists in India. This cardiologist regularly performs angioplasties. He has 3,500 patients using our NRF1 and NRF2 activators. This cardiologist actually retired from his practice and is now selling NRF2 because he believes he can impact more lives. This doctor is double board certified. She's a dermatologist and specializes in obesity medicine. This is an eye doctor. She is a plastic surgeon, had her patients using NRF2 and NRF2 skincare before she does surgery on them. The pharmacist above her has both cancer, skin cancer, and breast cancer. She believes in the power of NRF2 activation because of her P53 gene, that same gene studied at LSU. Those studies convinced her. This doctor down here in the bottom went to med school twice. She went to med school in Russia, where she became a pediatric surgeon, and then med school again in Canada, where she became a cancer pathologist. She speaks internationally and is published on the science of NRF2 activation. And then I love this study up here because this doctor was helping kids on the autism spectrum. Those were his patients. He became a distributor with us because of the results he saw in his patients that were NRF2 activated using our NRF2 activator as well as NRF2 activated energy drink. This is the kind of expert witness validation that blew my mind. But it's not just doctors, it's also professional athletes. So we have triathletes that have won Ironman, professional surfers, professional jockey. He's a customer, not a distributor. He's in his 50s. He rode in the Preakness and the Derby this year. He has been using NRF2 activation. Marathon runners, Olympians that have won gold medals both at the Olympics and the X Games, high school athletes, NCAA college athletes. We have professional volleyball players, baseball players, football players, bodybuilders. But I want to tell you the story of this man here. You may recognize him. This is Anthony Robles. He is a wrestler that was born with one leg. He wrote a book called Unstoppable, and you may have seen him on the ESPYs on ESPN this year because he won an ESPY. So Anthony Robles won the NCAA Division I Wrestling Championship with one leg. He authored a book called Unstoppable. A movie is coming out about his story. And Anthony Robles has been NRF2 activated since 2011. Now he's using NRF2, NRF1, NAD, as well as our omegas and pre and probiotics. Watch for him on Veterans Day. He is going to be trying to break a record for the disabled veterans of America. This is a powerful story of how activation can help you optimize your body's own genetics, right? And what I love about these athletes is they aren't paid endorsements. We don't drop $1 million into their bank accounts so that they can convince you to use these products. These athletes use these products because they impact their mitochondrial health, their inflammation. They boost their ATP so that they can boost their performance and get the most out of all of those hours and decades that they've been putting in at the gym to maximize their performance in their sports, right? Now, as we close, we just want to give you a snapshot of the history of the company because a lot of you have never heard of LifeVantage before tonight. So our company started in 2003. That's when we launched our Nrf2 activator called Protandim. And a couple years later, we were featured on an investigative journalism show on ABC News called ABC Primetime. You see the picture of John Quinones, the reporter there. Now, this is important because gotcha journalism shows, they don't try to prove products work. They try to find products that don't and expose them, right? So John Quinones used our NRF2 activator, and in just 2 weeks, half of the time of our study, his oxidative stress level was decreased by 46%. People have run into him recently. He still is NRF2 activated to this day. After that show was featured on ABC, a lot of other news stations and journalism shows highlighted our product. Our sales spiked from a couple million to $7 million. But our company was run by scientists, not by businessmen. Even though we had $7 million of sales, we didn't have customer service, we didn't have marketing, and we weren't meeting our customers' demands. Our sales plummeted back down to about $3 million, and we were operating at a net loss. And so the board of directors was confused. Why do we have this amazing product that's helping reduce oxidative stress? It's impacting people's lives, but we can't operate at a profit. And it was because we were selling it over the counter with high school students selling it in Rite Aids and GNCs. You can see the science here tonight. It's complicated, right? And those kids in the stores, they weren't able to talk to you about why this was better than vitamin C sitting on the shelf. And so the business consultants recommended we take this to direct sales, and that's what we did in 2009. Instead of selling just half a bottle per store per month and operating at a loss, by 2012, we were selling $100 million of product a year. And over the last 6 years, our sales have spiked to $200 million. Just last year, we had a record-breaking year at $226 million in sales and a record-breaking quarter of $56 million in sales. How do you know? You can verify that by checking out our stock. Our company's publicly traded. You can find our stock ticker LFVN. We are on the NASDAQ with Google and Amazon and all the other technology stocks. Now, this was really important evidence to me as well for a lot of reasons. First of all, the NASDAQ, that's the big boys, right? That's where the scientific companies, the technology stocks are. We are on the NASDAQ with them. Second of all, it let me see the transparency of this company. You can look under the hood to check us out, to believe us. Every quarter, we file a report with the US government, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and in that report, you can read about our company and our products. There are 10,000 companies in direct sales around the world. Only 20 of them are publicly traded where you can see their secrets, right? 20 of them. Of those 20, only 7 are on the NASDAQ. So that was another big, huge check mark for me in the credibility column. But what I also found is I went and did my due diligence in those 2 months, and I checked out the SEC reports that LifeVantage filed. And what I saw stopped me in my tracks, honestly. So in those SEC reports, you will find what's called institutional investors. These are millionaires and billionaires that have bought our company stock. And as you can see, hedge funds and mutual funds, they don't buy stock in direct sales companies. They just don't. It's unheard of. So I didn't expect to find them in our SEC reports, but the science started gathering the attention of scientists around the world, and that caused Wall Street to take notice. These are the kind of guys like on Shark Tank, right? Millionaires and billionaires. So who owns our stock? $75 million of our stock is owned by some of the most prolific hedge funds and mutual funds on Wall Street. So for example, BlackRock is the largest hedge fund on Wall Street. They control $6 trillion with a T, $6 trillion worth of assets for their investors. They hold almost $12 million of our stock. Vanguard is the second largest hedge fund on Wall Street. The hedge fund bought our stock, and 2 of their mutual funds purchased our stock. They control almost $15 million worth of our stock. And then BlackRock. I want you to go Google these companies after we're done here. BlackRock is the who's who on Wall Street. It's not traditional and financial guys. They're mathematicians and statisticians. They used to work for the Department of Defense breaking codes. They now have brought that expertise to Wall Street, and they've returned the highest average return on investment for their investors over the last 20 years, 30% return on their investment. And some of their specialty funds have returned as much as 80% return on the investment. These are the specialists in the pharmaceutical, nutraceutical, and supplement industry. These are the specialists in the anti-aging market. They study this all day, and they decided to invest collectively about $75 million of stock is owned by these hedge funds and mutual funds. For me, this stopped me in my tracks. This is the kind of scientific validation that impressed Wall Street, and it's also what impressed me, and it's why I knew I could trust the representations made by this company. Now, if you want to go see that ABC Primetime Investigative Report, you can go to a website called biohackandactivate.com. It has the ABC report. It has hyperlinks that'll take you to those studies on PubMed. It also has some interviews with some of the people on our scientific advisory board, as well as testimonials from the dog world and the horse world. And for me, those were really powerful because animals don't know what a placebo effect is. They don't, if an animal is lame today and a month later, the animal is running out in the field, you know that you can trust that testimonial. That's what was so powerful for me here at LifeVantage as well. So as we close, this is just a snapshot of what distinguishes us from other supplement companies, other direct sales companies, our patents, our peer-reviewed studies, the National Institute of Aging, the fact that we outperformed a $50,000 a year pharmaceutical Nrf2 activator, the universities that have researched our products, the fact that we were published by the American Heart Association, that grants from the American Diabetes Association. That's the science here at LifeVantage that distinguishes us as a biotech company. Now, as we close, I just want to invite you to get back to whoever talked to you, who shared this webinar with you. Let them know if you want to try our products, you want to try our Tri-Synergizers to help you age less or live more. Let them know if you're interested in the business side of this, because we have so many people who love the products. We have webinars that are specifically focused on the business. Tonight, we wanted to focus on the products and the science for you. And if neither of those are for you, I know that they would appreciate referrals. This is just a glimpse of the people that believe in the science here at LifeVantage: doctors and dentists, physical therapists and pharmacists, people that work out at the gym, people that love to improve their health by working out, anybody that owns horses or dogs, estheticians, cosmetologists, anybody in the weight loss field, anybody who has kids that are trying to get a scholarship to college or to get from college to get invited to the combine, anybody that cares about health and wellness, anybody that eats organic. All of these people have fallen in love with our products. Any of the kids you may have that are on the spectrum, these are the people that love to reduce their oxidative stress, boost their mitochondrial function, and I know they'd appreciate a referral. So as we close, I just want to thank you tonight for joining me here with LifeVantage as we talked about the impact of Nrf2 activation on the free radical theory of aging, NRF1 activation on the mitochondrial theory of aging, and NAD activation on the SIRTUIN theory of aging. We appreciate you joining us here at LifeVantage to learn about nutrigenomics, to help you understand how you can help activate your body to age less and live more.